tragic fate of Kissy Missy. Kissy has always been a mystery. She's helped us, guided us, but never spoken a word. Then, at the end of chapter 3, she just vanished. So what happened to her? In chapter 4, we finally get some of the clues, but trust me, the answers are more terrifying than you think. And in today's video, we're breaking down everything about her past, her connection to the Playtime Co, and what could be her final fate in chapter 5. So in order to do that, we're gonna have to recap her last moments of chapter 3. And when we last saw Kissy Missy, she stayed behind to help us escape, and Poppy promised to come back for her. But just as we descended, we heard it, screaming, fighting, and then silence. So who or what attacked her? We didn't know at the time, but the truth is actually pretty horrifying. Fast forward to chapter 4, and we finally see Kissy Missy again, but she's barely clinging on to life. She's injured, hiding in the safe haven, and then we get confirmation. The prototype might have been the one who attacked her after all. The moment Poppy tried to help, the prototype struck, and that was the scream that we heard. That was Kissy. This means she wasn't just injured, she was hunted for. But why? What does the prototype want with her? And in chapter 4, there's a massive clue about Kissy's origin that might actually help with this. Inside one of the prison cells, we find a weekly checkup log of experiment 1172, which we now know is Kissy Missy. Obviously, Huggy Wuggy is experiment 1170, and the big question is who's 1171? That's been passed around all over the internet, with many people believing that it was Riley. However, the timelines just don't add up. But what if Kissy Missy's timeline fits an even darker purpose? The report describes experiment 1172 as highly anxious, emotionally unstable, and prone to extreme stress. Does that sound familiar? Kissy Missy has always been different from Huggy. She hesitates, she fears, she wants to escape. But here's the thing. She wasn't always like this. Before Playtime Co got their hands on her, she was just a child. And unlike Huggy, she wasn't designed to be violent. She was an experiment to be obedient. And the company wanted a friendly mascot, but when she failed to meet their standards, she was abandoned. And that's further proven in the VHS tape that we've seen. The VHS tape is titled Restricted, and it's all about her relocation day. Kissy was loaded onto a cargo train headed to the Playcare per the bigger body's contingency plan. But on the way there, she was suddenly released from the straps as the train accelerated. And seconds later, the hour of joy took place, influenced by none other than the prototype. Or perhaps driven by stress and self-defense, Kissy Missy knocked down 2 workers handling her and later chased down another worker who ran away from her at 11:14 a.m. She returned to the same position she was originally, but covered in blood and surrounded by corpses. After the hour of joy, with the factory now abandoned, Kissy Missy would roam around inside. She would be present in 2005 when the player returned to look for their missing co-workers, and that's when we stumble across her. In the log, it mentions that she was desiring to return to her original living quarters. And all of this really, to me, means that she remembered something from before she was turned into Kissy Missy. Unlike Huggy, who was kind of like a mindless predator, Kissy was different. She had fear, hesitation, and emotions. She was never meant to be a hunter. Instead, she was just designed to be obedient and a counterpart to Huggy. Playtime Co wanted a friendly, controllable mascot, and that's exactly what I believe that the prototype is looking for as well. But when she didn't meet their standards, they saw her as a failure. Now going back to the prototype, Kissy and Huggy would be the ultimate tools to his objectives. As strong as the two of them are, along with their obedience to listen to whoever their master is, this time being the prototype, they would be able to control and pretty much empower the entire rest of the Playcare, keeping not only intruders out like Huggy was initially supposed to be, but also making sure everyone fell in line with the objective. Right now, Kissy is very obedient to Poppy, and that's the reason she didn't attack us in chapter 3, because Poppy told her not to. Now imagine that power falling into the wrong hands, and that is what I believe the prototype was trying to do at the end of chapter 3. when he attacked. Now let's talk about something strange. Kissy Missy's injuries. She's wearing an arm splint, something that suggests that someone tried to help her heal. But here's when things don't really add up. In the Playtime Co, experiments aren't supposed to have bones, are they? So what is she healing from exactly? Could this mean that she retained some of her human biology? Is Kissy Missy the only experiment capable of recovering from this? Well, the answer to this is probably not, because there's 2 other experiments that I can think of off the top of my head that have also shown results of human biology. One of them being Huggy, as you can literally see a brain coming from the top of his head at the end of chapter 4. But the other might shock you. If you look really closely at the prototype's hand that we've seen, there is a bone along with this metal. So that also means at one point in time, he has some human biology built inside of him. Now, does this make her more valuable to the prototype, seeing as he might want to start forming a more human version of himself? Even though we've seen him literally grow as the chapters have progressed, maybe there's some importance to his human aspect of things. And that's the reason why he mentions to Harley Sawyer that the only reason he hasn't been scrapped for meat and bones is because he had some importance. Another thing that I wanted to point out is that chapter 4, Poppy's bond with Kissy Missy, is interesting. Unlike every other experiment, Poppy actively stays with her and her only. When we reunite with them, it's clear that they escaped together somehow. This suggests something huge, that Kissy Missy may be the only experiment left that Poppy actually trusts. But that leads us to the final mystery. Why is the prototype so desperate to eliminate her? Many people around the internet believe that she isn't so much of use to the prototype, but the only thing keeping Poppy from rejoining him, and thus the reason why he wants to get her out of the picture. And so with one more distraction in the prototype's way of reclaiming Poppy, this could be the reason why he feels so strongly about attacking her and taking her out. Now, the reason I believe that it was the prototype all along at the end of chapter 3 is that when we do stumble across Poppy and Kissy, they are getting once again hunted by this creature. Outside of the safe haven, you see a shadow for the first time since chapter 2 of the prototype. This guy has gotten so much bigger. He is huge. As you can see, this crab-like structure slowly move off from the distance. Now, this might just be a silhouette, but I think this is a foreshadow of what to expect of the prototype as the chapters progress. He is going to be absolutely massive. And we actually have reference to this. As you can see at the end of chapter 3, the prototype is so big that his arm alone is nearly the length of Catnap's entire body. And we now see 6 of those arms in chapter 4. So you can only imagine what his final form is going to look like. Obviously, we have some fan-made versions of them passed around YouTube, and they look horrifying. But this is only the beginning. All that being said, I think it's so insane that he was the one that attacked Kissy Missy at the end of chapter 3. Him being the most likely case, though, we do need to play devil's advocate, as many people thought he was some other monsters, one of them being Boxy Boo. I don't know if this is necessarily the case, but his purpose was to dispose any lower-ended employees aware about the initiative that they found no use for. So he definitely falls in the realm of being violent and able to attack on sight. But I don't think this necessarily fits the attack based off of Kissy Missy's injuries. Kissy wasn't bitten or ripped up in any way. She was burnt and broken, and I believe if Boxy Boo gets a hold of somebody, he's going to bite off a chunk of their body. In addition to that, we never heard any spring, and Boxy Boo was known to be stealthy, hiding in his box until he jumped out at a target. You never hear that, only Kissy screams. So I think he can be eliminated from the one who attacked her at the end of the chapter. But she was burnt, which doesn't necessarily fit the prototype's bill either, at least from what we've seen. And we don't know what other toys he's collected up until this point, seeing as we've only seen him attack Mommy Longlegs, grab Catnap's body, and whoever else might have been picked up along the way. But they weren't the first victims that the prototype has taken and made a part of him. Because you'll notice, one thing Mommy Longlegs says before she dies is in reference to him making her a part of him. So we don't know. There could have been a toy or monster with flame-like abilities that he might have taken and made a part of him beforehand. Either way, I think he definitely wants Kissy out of the picture. She's not only helping us, but maybe just getting in his way. And if that's the case, there could be a huge reason to why he separated us from her at the end of chapter 4. I don't necessarily think that his bombs were not set up intentionally to do so. And if that's the case, then maybe Kissy might actually be in much more danger than she ever was in any of the previous chapters. So the question is, will she survive in chapter 5? Let me know your favorite Kissy Missy theory in the comment section down below. Let's talk about this because I do think she's going to be very vital in the player's failure or success going forward. Anyways, guys, that wraps up this theory here. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure you do me a big favor. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and continue to support these videos. Thank you again for all love and support, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, peace out!